Valvoline's Restore and Protect. This product claims to remove up to 100% of piston deposits. That's a pretty incredible claim. Hi, I'm Lake, the Motor Oil Geek, and the motto of this channel is it's science instead of speculation. So I'm really curious about this product, which is why we're here in Ashland, Kentucky at Valvoline's Research and Development Facility, because we're gonna get you, the straight skinny, on this product. You see, Roger England, who is the Chief R&D Officer for Valvoline, happens to be an old friend of mine. So he got us the backdoor pass to the R&D facility. But it's also kind of ironic because I met Roger when he still worked for Cummins, and he's the one that introduced me to the premium blue Restore oil that was made by Valvoline. I've actually used the old premium blue Restore oil. Man, that stuff worked. I mean, it could clean engines like no one's business. Cummins developed it with Valvoline to clean, I think it's an ISB engine from Cummins, could clean ringland deposits. And again, I've used it, it worked fantastic. I've analyzed samples of the old Restore oil and this new Restore and Protect, and they are night and day different chemically. I mean, you couldn't make them almost more different. I mean, the old Restore oil was a PAO ester blend with a super high detergent package compared to what doesn't look to have much, if any, ester, and a pretty normal API SP looking additive package. I mean, nothing leaps off the paper with the Restore and Protect that says it's anything like the old Restore oil. So I'm really curious to see what these guys show us and tell us about this new Restore and Protect oil. They let me through the front door, so it's a good sign. All right, I see Roger over here, so come say hi. Hi, Roger. Hey, good to see you, man.
Hey, how you doing, Lake?
I'm fantastic. So, this is my buddy Roger England. This is a dyno. This is cool.
Yep, this is a mechanical testing lab. And basically what we do here is all the drive-wide, mechanical engine, all the physical testing.
This is fun. We start with a lab in Mumbai, India.
Okay.
They can actually synthesize molecules. So we work with universities and national labs here in the United States, and we come up with theoretical molecules that do things we need them to do. Then as we create that theoretical molecule, we hand that off to the Valvoline lab in Mumbai, and they synthesize it. Then they take that, scale it up into a sample that they send to our lab in Lexington, Kentucky. That kind of prototype molecule is then scaled up into a product. We do all the blending, we have the ability to blend, that's where we blend all the race car oil. So we have a lot of analytical chemistry capabilities, a big chem lab, we do all that kind of work. So we make that from a molecule into a product. All right. So then that product is shipped here. We're in Ashland, Kentucky, about 2 hours east of Lexington, and this is our lab that tests everything. Now when I say everything, we're talking everything from outboard motors, electric vehicles, internal combustion engines, little generator motors running on hydrogen right now here, all the way up to big diesels, Cummins diesel engines running here on dynos. That's what we do. We also do a lot of industry testing here. We're the only oil company that still runs our own engine test lab. So guess what?
Whoa. Say that again. You're the only oil company that has your own engine test lab.
Correct. How the heck can you do all this and do all the technology that's in oil today? It's incredibly complicated. If you can't see all the nuances and everything going on in the oil while it's actually an application.
So this is where you actually discovered that the ability for that to clean up.
Yes.
Because you have your own engine test here.
Absolutely. This is where we work with the composition, we work with the molecules, we work with everything going on to make it do what we want to do, and we come up with something that outperforms anything on the market.
Well, can you show us that?
Sure.
Since it's you.
Okay, I know you're not going to tell us the chemistry. I know, we wish they would tell us what's in it. They're not going to. But they can at least show us how they know what it really does, because that's super curious.
Not a problem at all. This is a great place to show you because we have all the evidence right here.
Let's go see it. Ooh, what's this?
This is the Sequence 6 test It's an ASTM test, and it's the fuel economy test. You can see these pots over here, there's 4 of them. There's oil in each one of them pots. So this thing will actually change oil on the fly with the engine still running.
But it doesn't just change it, it actually flushes it, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah, it'll actually do a double flush and then a fill. So each time when we start off, it brings the engine up to temperature. It'll actually do 2 changes. It'll put the oil in, warm it up, then it'll dump it again. There's a drum in the back that you can't see right now. And then it'll do a second change, then it'll do the third one. So that we make sure that we don't have any dilution from the prior oil.
Right, and that's the key thing. People don't understand when you're doing oil testing, you're not doing a double flush, you're really not doing a proper test.
Because you're leaving old oil in there. All the oil doesn't come out on each drain.
So you have a baseline oil that you run, then you have to put your candidate oil in, but then you have a flush oil.
We have a flush oil that is a high detergent oil to actually help to ensure that we get all of the other formulations, detergents,
out.
It's all about the chemistry, and we want the right chemistry.
Right.
And to get the right chemistry, we have to make sure we get the old chemistry out when we put the new chemistry in, because a lot of the stuff we put in is at very low treat rates. And when you have residual things hanging around, it changes things.
Right.
We don't want that. We want to eliminate the variable.
Freaking cool is that? I love this thing. I could like hang out here all the time. Okay, all right. But this is not the 3H. This is the Sequence 6.
Correct.
The 3H is the one that is the piston deposit test. That's the one we want to see. You can see there's actually a ton of dynos in this room. I'm going to do my best not to get distracted. We're here for the 3H, but I've already seen something else I got to talk about at some point. We may have to come back and do another video in the future because there's too much stuff here that's too cool. All right, 3H, high temperature oil oxidation and piston deposit test.
Think of a truck towing a trailer. Basically, you're running hot temperatures. You're running over 300 degrees F on oil. Fluids are approximately 120 degrees C.
Really hot.
As hot as you can get it. With this test, you know, there's a lot of oils that can't pass this test. It actually builds deposits, and those deposits can contribute to ring sticking.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because as a piston ring guy, this is like a big deal. This is like one of the real reasons why I reached out to Roger about coming up here to visit, because I love some low tension piston rings. The enemy of those low tension piston rings are deposits, because if those rings start to stick in the groove, my piston rings stop
Turn out
working.
the lights, the party's over.
Absolutely. Danny Don would love that one.
So what I always tell people is there's a T1 and a T2 in oil.
Okay.
T1 is a temperature where you start building deposits. T2 is where you turn everything to ash. You either want to be below T1 or above T2 if you want to run well.
Okay.
Well, we can't run above T2 because we don't have the proper piston alloys to be able to do that long term.
Right.
So we're always trying to move T1 up. Synthetics move T1 up because they're a more consistent molecule and they have less natural variation in them, so that they increase that temperature where you start to form deposits.
Got it.
As we become more efficient, we are hotter, higher pressure. All that's efficiency because we're burning all the hydrocarbons. We're not letting them go out the exhaust pipe. We want all that transformation from fuel into temperature and from temperature into pressure to move the vehicle down the road as efficiently as possible. That increases temperature. That means more deposits. Today, with the efficiency we have in engines, deposits are a big deal.
Turbocharged, GDI, all that is basically increases temperature, which increases deposits.
Perfect. Yes.
Which is why on SP and GF6, deposit control is a higher level. It has to do a better job.
Deal. You know, you and I have talked a lot. Oil has 5 functions.
Yeah.
Lubricate, clean, seal, prevent corrosion,
And cool.
and cooling. That's what it's got to do every day.
Yeah.
We've got this new Restore and Protect product. It does all those things. It does all those things as good as any product on the market, we believe. We have industry standard data testing to prove that it meets all the specifications and all the OEM things that are on the bottle. But the one thing that really stands out about this is the difference in how it cleans. In the past, we've always worked with polar molecules to try to slow the rate of deposit growth.
Right.
And we've gotten really good at slowing that rate of deposit growth down. So it's deposits are about nucleation and growth.
Yep.
We cut down on the nucleation, we cut down on the growth, we cut down on how fast the engine gets dirty. But we've got to a point now where rather than lowering that slope, we kicked it over to its negative.
Right.
We actually see and can prove that when you put this in your engine and you run it, over time, it removes deposits. The engine goes back in cleanliness to when it was a baby engine, when it was all new and it was all great. It fixes problems where if you've got things like the rings are stuck or they're not sealing perfectly, or even if they're not stuck, if they're still impeded from normal movement.
Right.
This takes those deposits away. We see it move back. Continued usage of this continues to clean the engine. Nobody else has a product that does that we've seen.
So what was it the first time you took one of these apart after running that oil and it was cleaner than when it started? What was that reaction? Because I know that had to be freak out, right?
It was unexpected.
Right.
You know, it was just something that, even though we were kind of looking for it, we really didn't believe it. When we took it apart, we looked at it. We actually had to do it again to see if it would continue.
Right, if it would repeat, yeah.
If it would repeat, we did it again. It continued to clean. And so here we are today.
In my history, formulating oils and doing testing, I've actually seen that unexpected result, and you're like, that wasn't real.
Right.
And you got to run it again, and it repeats, and you're like, whoa, maybe we're on to something here. And then run it again, and it repeats, and you're like, well, maybe this is real.
And we've run it enough now that we know it's real.
Yeah.
We have the data, and it's on an industry standard test, so it's not like something we thought of. We're using the industry standard test, and we actually use this test with other oil to dirty up pistons.
Yeah.
And then we change the oil on the same test and clean them up.
So speaking of industry standard test, there is an industry standard for rating deposits because everyone just accepts there's going to be deposits.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get a peek at some of those?
Mm-hmm.
And our raters and our stand are both certified, and we're accepted data by the industry. And we've actually run tests for other companies based on the fact that we have approved data across the industry.
Yeah, your test here counts towards API.
Absolutely.
Because it's an accredited ASTM stand that's verified.
Yes, with all the right.
That's really big.
Yes, and we're the only oil company that still does this.
That's pretty freaking cool. All right, so we got some pistons we can see?
Yep.
Go see some pistons. Ooh, so this is the rating lab.
Correct.
Nice and bright in here, by the way.
Rating room.
Rating room.
It's a room in the lab, and it has a lot of industry specified things that it has to meet. One of those is how much candle power and where the lights are.
Correct. Temperature, so that when you got parts and you're measuring wear, you know, you got consistency across everything.
And those, you actually have rating cards that, oh yeah, right there.
Just exactly the scale we use. So 1 is bad, 10 is good. Higher numbers are better.
So what are we looking at here?
A dirty piston, particularly what you'd get out of a 3H stand. And you can see the buildups, you can see the varnish and stuff on the grooves, and you see some deposits back in the back.
Yeah, those are the stuff we hate as a piston ring guy.
Yep, because that can actually impede the function of the ring.
Yeah, when you don't have a lot of tension to begin with, you get some deposits like right there that can actually make the rings stick and then they stop functioning correctly. And well, I can tell you this. This is typical of what I see in shops when you're taking engines apart. This is what is pretty common. I've actually seen worse in the real world.
There are a lot of cars out there running with that level.
Yeah, this is pretty typical of what's out there. So this one next to it.
It started out similar to this. And after 90 hours of runtime, we only have 90 hours on this piston, you can see how much, you can see the difference.
Oh yeah, I mean completely. Ring groove is where you see it.
Correct.
Oil ring groove is the most, right? I mean, that's really big difference cleaning up and around the pin boss, and the lands are much cleaner.
And obviously 90 hours isn't even a whole oil change. What we're doing here is looking at the rate that we remove this because we don't want to overwhelm the filter.
That's a really great point, because
we have an OEM defined system we have to work within so that we don't create any damage.
if you cleaned it up too fast, you could actually have collateral damage. And that's exactly why I don't recommend engine oil flushes. Not because they don't work, but because they could work too good and cause an unintended negative consequence. Ask me how I know.
Right, we could plug the filter, go to bypass, and maybe have damage based on that. We know we're not doing that. We have worked very hard to have the rate of removal stay within the capability of the filter.
That's cool. So in the past, I've actually used the old Restore oil that Valvoline did with Cummins.
Yes.
And that product was pretty amazing. It was like a one-use clean it up, but it
Very
was
aggressive.
so rapid removal. I mean, we had one vehicle, it actually plugged the catalytic converter.
The carbonation deposits are going to leave.
Yeah.
You got to make sure they don't leave so fast you can't deal with them.
So I've seen that as a potential downside.
And because we had that history and we had that learning with Cummins, we can then apply that to this and then get into a space where it is great for all of the market. This is a different chemistry, a different situation, a different deal, but we knew we wanted to do the same thing because we know that if we clean these pistons up, we increase the piston ring seal.
So one thing about this product that I find really interesting is that on paper, it doesn't look to be anything special. Like compared to the old Restore oil.
A lot of ester.
Had a ton of ester in it, which, okay, it made sense. It would be very surface aggressive, clean up, but not something you would want to use continuously like you said before. This stuff, to me, this is like the Tom Brady of motor oils, because on paper, it doesn't look to be special. The VI isn't crazy high. There's no crazy high TBN. There's nothing about it on paper that really stands out to make it spectacular. And that's why I say Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was not the most impressive quarterback at the NFL Combine. You know, he wasn't fast in the 40, didn't have a big vertical leap, all those different things. He didn't have those impressive qualities at the Combine. But he's the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. He has all the rings to prove it. Because on the field, the skills he did have came together to make him a great player. And I feel like this oil, what we've seen from the test data says that there's synergy amongst the chemistry that makes this product incredibly impressive. And I've seen this before, that sometimes a oil that on paper doesn't have the highest VI, it doesn't have the highest TBN, but it can do a better job than other products that have a much higher VI, much more ZDP. And again, haven't been super impressed with what's on paper, but I'm mega impressed with what I see.
I can tell you that this is one of those things that you wouldn't do if you didn't have an engine lab. We're learning things that are not intuitively obvious.
That ability to have your chemist be connected with what you're doing here, to be able to see this subtle change, because sometimes it's that subtle change that creates the big gain would have never done otherwise.
No. And that's the advantage of having our own engine lab and doing our own testing and building engines and having our hands in this stuff. We're very hands-on. We have a hands-on group. We want our hands on engines, we want our hands on hardware, because at the end of the day, that's where this product is used.
Right, on hardware.
On hardware.
And the hardware speaks.
That's right.
And by the way, I am pointing back there for a reason, because I happen to see something behind Roger that I want to show you. Right, this is a profilometer, and that is a camshaft out of the 4A test. Was an industry standard camshaft wear test. So I was just saying how I've seen this before. It was basically with this same kind of setup where we would grind a camshaft, measure the camshaft, run a camshaft wear test. I've seen an oil that doesn't have the most ZDP. It doesn't have the highest viscosity index. It doesn't have anything impressive on paper, but it kicks butt with this in terms of camshaft wear. But if you're not running an engine test, you'll never know it unless you have the ability to run an engine test and then measure it with a device like this. A bearing tester is not going to tell you that, or 4-ball tester is not going to tell you that. There's not a bench test that can tell you what that engine tells you, which is why it's so important to do engine testing and have the right equipment to do proper measurement. That's how you really make advances.
That's the thing about when we look at bench testing. It's like modeling.
Yep.
You know, somebody said a long time ago, all models are wrong, some models are useful. Bench testing is a lot the same way. You can do bench testing and it's usually directionally correct.
Right.
You'll see failures on a bench test you'll never see in the real world.
Right.
You'll also see failures in the real world you can't recreate on a bench test.
Absolutely.
You gotta run the hardware.
Yep.
You gotta run the hardware all together to get the synergy. Just like you don't see anything on that spec sheet about this oil that says it's different, you won't see anything in the bench tests that say it's different, but when you put it in the engine, there it is.
So again, I can't thank you enough for letting us come in here, hang out, see all this cool stuff. So I think we need to come back because I saw so many things here that I would love to talk about that would have made this an hour-long video and it would have been a complete jabbered mess. So
yeah, there are a lot of things here we can talk about. There are still some things here that if you start talking about, I'm going to kick you. Come back sometime, we'll talk hydrogen because you saw our running hydrogen engine.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of cool things in that space. We're doing a lot of cool things in a lot of space because guess what? We have the people and the equipment and the facility and the resources to make it happen.
wow, mind blown. What an incredible place. I wish I could have shown you everything they showed me, but maybe they'll let us come back and do another video. Maybe might be able to see some more next time. So speaking of that hydrogen engine, well, that's the real reason I was there in the first place. You see, Total Seal is actually making some piston rings for Valvoline's hydrogen test engine. So maybe we'll get a chance to come back and do some more video on that in the future because I really wish I could have shown you everything they showed me. Maybe we'll show you more the next time. In the meantime, I'm gonna give that Restore and Protect a try. And I know just the vehicle to try it in, my wife's van. When I get some results, I'll make sure I share them with you.